We've now reached story number 5 on your brochure. Browning Bridges. Written by Donnell Nicol and read by, and please go easy on this person. She suffers from outrageous stage fright. Cam Franklin, ladies and gentlemen. Everything's gonna be okay. Everyone's friends. It's gonna be fine.
Thanks, Mom. Hi. Okay. Just hoping I put this in the correct order. Browning Bridges. First loves are so special, really. The first time you feel like you really get someone and they really get you. You really want to hang on to it for dear life, you know. We met in high school in the cafeteria lunch line. He was funny. I liked how he dressed kind of like a grandpa. He was cool and into all the cool stuff I wanted to know more about. He'd make me mix CDs of all his favorite indie bands that very soon after became my favorite bands too. He'd draw illustrations of us in MS Paint that he'd send to me. Sorry, I don't like reading these in advance. I like just getting up here, so I'm enjoying this with y'all. He'd write sweet notes, and he was so nice to me. He surprised me with ice cream dates, gave me thoughtful gifts, even a puppy once. All that mushy stuff you think about when you think of your first true love, until everything eventually goes to shit. He and I made it work for about 4 or 5 years until our lives seemed to be going in different directions. And obviously so. I was just starting college at UT. He'd moved with me from Houston to Austin, and we'd gotten an apartment together. I was knee-deep in studying and pretty distracted with my own goals. He was working from our apartment and seemed less enthusiastic about living in a new city and potentially making new friends. His trips to Houston went from days long to weeks long, while I stayed home to study. Our relationship had run its course. He seemed unhappy, and I felt unhappy, so I broke it off. This story isn't really about our relationship, though. It's about our breakup sex. We went a month or 2 without seeing each other, and I felt fucking awful. I guess he did too. I was pretty isolated in Austin, stuck in my apartment, watching VHS tapes. But he was back in Houston and had all of his friends who, in the course of those years, had also become mine. I felt like he had it better than me because of that. I'd go out of my way and try to meet new guys. They were all Austin transplants who annoyed the fuck out of me eventually. Jonathan, the stoner, who recorded his outdated psych rock tunes in his closet for the acoustics, man. And Jack, the vegan recycling addict who made fun of people who didn't know that the real organic bananas aren't actually Chiquita banana yellow. I didn't want to eat his bananas either, and I thought that he was kind of a dick. Eventually, my ex wanted to see me again, and I was dying to see him. The one person I really understood. The one person who really understood me too. He drove 3 hours to see me. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, if anything. I think the initial intention was to pick up some of the things he'd left, but seeing each other again was probably in the forefront of both of our minds. I cleaned the apartment for the 3 hours it would take him to get from Houston to Austin, in an effort to seem like I was keeping it together just fine without him. Once he arrived, he was hungry, so we decided to go to this huge Chinese buffet we'd always go to together. I drove his car, just like old times. And just like old times, he'd put his hand on me while I drove and started playing with my hair. I think I must have flinched because he pulled away and said, "I'm sorry, it's just a habit." It was agony. I still loved him so much. I hated this whole situation. What was I thinking having him come here? How could I ever be with anyone else again? We ate so much. We barely talked. We just ate and stared at each other awkwardly. He probably ate 3 plates. I know this sounds like it's not going fucking anywhere, okay? I promise it's going somewhere. He paid for the both of us, and I felt like shit about that. We drove to the apartment in silence. A 5-minute drive that felt like 2 hours. There was so much tension. We weren't even all the way to the door yet, and we started making out. There was incredible passion, despite our low main breath. Despite our low main breath. After a makeout session, steamier... God damn it. After a makeout session, steamier than the dumplings we had just gorged ourselves on. We moved it to the bedroom. It was probably the best sex we had had in a year. I was even confused by it. Sorry, the dumplings still got me. At one point, I stopped him and asked why he was doing all the things he'd neglect to do when our relationship was at its least passionate. And he told me, because this is the last time. I thought I'd cry so hard. This sentiment moved me, and pretty soon the foreplay progressed, and we were having what felt like the best sex we'd ever had. The lights were on, and we looked into each other's eyes as I felt myself closer and closer to an orgasm. He was really giving it his all, too. I think he was even sweating on me. Suddenly, I smelled something. Weird. General Tso's chicken, maybe? Just straight up soy sauce? Fucking nope. That is the unmistakable smell of human shit. Honestly, I sort of hesitated to say anything at first because I worried for a moment that the shit was my own. But it was really killing the sex vibes. There was no way I could come now. After thinking so much about human feces. So I pushed him off of me and said, okay, what is that? He was frustrated, rightfully so. I mean, this sex was great. He stood over me at the foot of the bed, and I sat up to investigate. I looked at him, naked, erect, and emotionally vulnerable. All clear, though. He looked about as nervous as I felt. Then I looked down. Between my legs and on my thighs, there it was, his shit. On our bed, on our sheets. Actually, no, now they were my sheets, my bed, but it was his shit. We sprung into action. I think I just said, no, over and over again, and ran to the shower. I heard him say from the bedroom, I took the sheets off. And just as awkwardly, I yelled, okay, while scrubbing my body with a loofah that I'd come into contact with. While scrubbing my body with a loofah like I'd come into contact with radioactive chemicals. Then the apartment went silent. I honestly thought he'd bounced, like he just bolted back to Houston, because how is this shit happening right now? I got out of the shower, dried myself off, made a mental note to future me that 3 plates of assorted Chinese foods and an already sensitive stomach should never be combined with passionate lovemaking, and looked around for a man that I knew must certainly be in shambles, just as I was. I found him on my balcony, chain-smoking Marlboro Reds like there was no fucking tomorrow. I sat next to him on the ground, and at first we just sat in stunned silence. I thought to myself about how this had to be a sign. He finished his third cigarette in 15 minutes and said, maybe that was a sign. Agreed, homeboy. We looked at each other like strangers who had known each other in a different time. The next thing he said is he put his arm around me, and I laid my head on his shoulder for the very last time was, promise me that you will never, ever tell anyone that I accidentally shit on you. And I enthusiastically agreed. We spent a lot of time apart after that. I stuck with my studies, and he moved back to Houston. He got a new girlfriend. I got a new boyfriend. We slowly moved on with our lives. A couple years later, I moved back to Houston. We still had all the same friends, so we'd see each other sometimes. Sometimes it was awkward, but mostly we were friendly enough. I kept my promise to never tell. That's the sort of thing you do for your first true love. One night, though, there was a party. We all got to drinking. He was there, along with all of our oldest friends, and a few years had passed, and we'd mostly let go of our resentments. He said something feisty to me, and in response I said, "Oh yeah? Well, you want me to tell everyone about how?" And quick as a whip, rip is in my mind for some reason. Quick as a whip, he said, "About how I shit all over you when we were having breakup sex?" And every friend within earshot immediately gathered around us because, what the fuck? So we told them the whole story together. Each of us sharing our own perspective in graphic, embarrassing detail to everyone's enjoyment. And you know what? Something about sharing that story with our closest friends helped us heal our old wounds. We've been friends ever since. First loves really are special, and I feel luckier than most that he and I are on such good terms these days. As friends, we've helped each other navigate the scary and often daunting world of dating and advised one another on our separate love lives. In many other relationships later, nobody has taken a literal shit on me since. So I guess things have worked out pretty well for my love life, all things considered.